right, folks, welcome in. This is another brand new edition of the 901 Soccer Podcast. I'm your host, Lawrence Dockery. You can find me on Twitter at LDoc93. You can find the 901 Soccer Podcast on Twitter at 901 Soccer Pod. And, of course, we are part of Bluff City Media, so you can find Bluff City Media on Twitter as well at BluffCity_media. Of course, you can find us over on Facebook as well. Search 901 Soccer. We'll pop right up. Search Bluff City Media. We'll pop right up. What we have for you tonight is Memphis 901FC gets a 0-0 draw with Sacramento Republic and clinches a playoff berth for the fourth straight season. That's right. We're going back to the playoffs again. Still work to do to get a home playoff game. That would be the third straight year of hosting a home playoff game. 2 games left to get that figured out. But the most important thing is you're back in the playoffs. You can't win the title if you don't make the playoffs. So that's check that off the list. They're back in the playoffs, and that's the most important thing. We're going to touch on, the game from Saturday night. We're recording this on Sunday. I do apologize if you notice a little bit of discoloration in my face. I was out at the South Campus for the U of M today covering the women's game. They got a 1-1 draw today, and somewhat disappointing, but more on that in a different show. But it was sunny, and I neglected to wear a hat or put sunscreen on, so the left side of my face is quite crisp. So apologies for that. This is coming to you on a Sunday evening. But we're going to talk about 901FC and their 0-0 draw with Sacramento Republic. We're going to talk about that game. Yes, there were a lot of discontent with the refereeing. Some of it justified, some of it not. I'll address that. Don't worry. Then we're going to look at the remaining schedule. There's 2 games left in the season. We're going to talk about perhaps different scenarios, what the standings look like, how that's all going to shape itself, and the crowd. Best crowd of the year officially on Saturday night against Sacramento. So we'll touch on that, perhaps hand out some flowers to those who need some flowers, and ask for more from those who need to be asked more of. Well, keep watching and you'll find out who is who. But let's just go ahead and get it started. 901FC gets the 0-0 draw with Sacramento Republic. That is 13 straight games unbeaten at home. They have not lost a home game since April 20th against Monterey Bay. That was a 2-1 game. I believe that was one of the very few games that I missed this year. And look, it's a tough team to beat here at AutoZone Park. That's one of the things that you could tell. Let me go back. Every time I've talked about 901FC this year, it all really goes back to and starts with the way they started building the roster in the offseason. And they were very adamant and very open and very upfront. We're like, look, we want to sign people that want to be here, and we want to sign players that are going to fight and scrap and claw for every minute of every game, week in, week out. And, there were a couple points at the season, especially early on, where things could have spiraled and gone completely off the rails. And the way that Stephen Glass and Caleb Patterson-Sewell put this roster together, it didn't spiral. Nobody got too high after a win. Nobody got too low after a loss. And trust me, you had 5 straight losses between games 2 and 6. And I was getting nervous. I'm not going to lie. I was getting nervous. I wasn't ready to hit the panic. I think I said at the end of May, if we still look like this, it'll be time to hit the panic button. Well, luckily they started turning it around at the end of April. They went on the road to Birmingham and beat the Legion, who the Legion did 901FC no favors tonight, losing to Las Vegas, but more on that later. And then they rattled off. They had another real long unbeaten streak after those 5 losses, and they're tough to beat. They're tough to play against, and they're especially tough to play against at AutoZone Park. And I don't think you can ask for a whole lot more than that. Was there maybe a result here or there on the road where you've been like, I would have liked to have seen more? Perhaps. Most recently was at Louisville City. That was when you look up and you're up 2-0 and you feel really good about that. Like, 2-0. This is Louisville, best team in the league. They've won the newly created Players Shield for the best regular season point total in the USL Championship. So that would maybe one that you would look back at and go, might have wanted a little bit more out of that. But at the end of the day, 13 straight unbeaten at home, and you're going back to the playoffs for the 4th straight year. I think playoffs is the new normal for this team. I think we probably could have said that last year, but I feel a lot better saying it this year. This is 6 years of 901FC now, and 4 of them you've been a playoff team. And really only one of those 6 seasons did you not have a snowball's chance in hell at making the playoffs, and that was the 2020 season. And I've spoken at length before, and I'm sure I will again, about how much I hated covering that 2020 team because they were so bad, and you had all the COVID crap going on. And that, at least the 2019, they might not have been good, but they were kind of in it until October. But they created a lot of chances. They were fun. They were new. By 2020, the new was gone. The fun was gone, but they were still bad. So now you've gone to 4 straight playoffs, and with two different managers. I think this is something we can and should continue to expect of this team and this organization. And truth be told, I think it's only, I don't know about going to get better, but I think they're here to stay as a regular playoff team. Earlier this year, Coach Glass signed his contract extension to keep him here in Memphis through the end of 2025. I think, again, that is something, that is an organization that realized, hey, we got something good here. Let's not wait for it to go walking out the door, because we've seen that happen before. And maybe it wasn't quite as one-sided as we might have felt at that particular time. But this was forward thinking. They didn't wait until the end of the season to go, oh, wait, your contract's up. Do you want to come back next year? No, they got the deal done. Coach Glass and Coach Caleb are really building something here, I think. And this year you had the monkey wrench thrown in there with the move from the Eastern Conference to the Western Conference. And, I don't know where they would be. I've got the standings pulled up, so they'd be probably right about, and if they were still in the East, they'd be maybe a spot higher than they are right now if they were in the East instead of the West. But, at the end of the day, it's 4 straight playoff appearances. I've said that a lot. I'm going to keep saying that a lot because I think that's an accomplishment. I mean, in this town, sporting-wise, Memphis Tiger football's gone to, I believe, they've been bowl eligible every year since 2014. So what does that make? 10 straight bowl game appearances. Obviously, the 2021 Hawaii Bowl got canceled because the players weren't happy with Todd Graham. But, have the Grizzlies been to 4 playoff appearances in a row? I know they had they did the play-in one year. Did they make the playoffs the bubble year? If they did, that would be 4 straight postseason appearances, because the NBA decided we can't just have playoffs. We have to have a play-in to get to the playoffs, which allegedly helped stop tanking, although it's not lost on me just how few games the superstars actually play. Different discussion, different show. But in terms of consecutive postseason appearances, Memphis 901FC is every bit as successful as anybody else in this town. I mean, Memphis Tiger basketball hasn't gone to 4 straight NCAA tournaments since Josh Pastner was the head coach, and going to 4 straight NCAA tournament appearances wasn't good enough, or so they thought. But they're building something here. There's the front office and the coaching staff did a really good job in the offseason of putting a quality group of players together. They did a really good job throughout the season of making sure things didn't collapse when results didn't go their way. And then as you got into the season, adding pieces here and there, some reinforcements to make sure, because it's always going to be a small group with Memphis 901FC. They don't have the budget that, Louisville or some of these teams have. So it's almost like Moneyball almost, in that, they don't have the same means that everybody else has, but they're still going to the playoffs every year. That speaks volumes to the job that everybody in the organization is doing, from the top from Craig Unger at the top all the way down to, Aaron Seeger, the 3rd string goalkeeper, who came on as an auxiliary striker this year. That's still one of my favorite moments from this season. So the game specifically, Sacramento, we'll talk about the refereeing in a minute, but it was, I would say, a pretty fairly even game. I don't think. I mean, Coach Glass said it in the post game. That's 2 playoff teams, and it looked like a playoff game. And I think I would probably agree with that. There's been a lot of 901FC games this year that were a lot more fun and a lot more wide open. This was a little bit more tense, a little bit more cagey, and I think that's reflected in the fact that these are 2 quality teams that still have something to play for, and you don't want to, a misstep with as tight as the standings are in the Western Conference, a misstep may drop you from 3rd place to 6th place because it's real tight. Not so much after today's results, but a little bit cagey, I won't quite say this for 901FC because Coach Glass has been adamant from day one. Every post game is like, yeah, we're glad that we're tough to beat here, and we're glad that we didn't lose, but you don't want to just not lose. You want to go out and win. So I wouldn't quite say that they were playing not to lose. I feel like maybe Sacramento was playing not to lose, but they're a quality outfit. They're very good defensively. They had a nice run in the U.S. Open Cup this year. So I don't know. It's just a little bit tense, a little bit cagey. Not the best display, I don't think, but it's 2 playoff teams. So all in all, there wasn't a whole lot to like, and there wasn't a whole lot to dislike. Not as I think it was the El Paso Locomotive game earlier this year. I think maybe back at the end of July, early part of August. That is the worst, most dreadful, most boring Memphis 901FC game I've ever seen. This was not that. So let's tap the brakes and keep the train on the tracks here. Pun intended, because we're talking about the locomotive. But what it does, you get the result. All you needed was a point. You got a point. You're in the playoffs for the 4th straight year. You took care of business. You 13 straight unbeaten at home. You only lost you lost 3 home games all year. I don't have it in front of me. I wonder how many other teams in the league have that few home losses over the course of the season. And really, I think it might have been before. I don't remember when that Open Cup game was, what the date of that was, but I think it was probably before that Monterey Bay game. But you've played 18 home games this year, fingers crossed for 19, but you played 18 home games this year and you only lost 3 of them across all competitions. That's impressive, and that's kudos to Stephen Glass and Caleb Patterson-Sewell. That's kudos to Tyler Derrick, Leston Paul, Marlon Santos, Bruno Lapa, Dylan Borsak, Carson Baumstieg, Tulu, all of them. Kudos to the players, kudos to the coaches for doing a very good job in defending home field. They're so good at defending home field that we would really like a 3rd straight year with a home playoff game, which just brings us to there's 2 games left in the season for 901FC. They're on the road at Phoenix, the reigning champs, and then they're on the road at New Mexico United, who is the number 1 team in the Western Conference. And by points, they are the number 3 team in the whole league. So they're a quality outfit. I believe they had a decent run in the U.S. Open Cup this year as well. They beat Real Salt Lake, I believe. I think they got their owner on Football Americas with Sebastian Salazar and Hercules Gomez. So they're a quality outfit. And if you'll recall, last year, 901FC on the road in the regular season finale, all you need is a point to secure a home playoff game. You get pounded, I think, 4-1, and luckily results elsewhere ensured that you got a home playoff game. It's kind of funny. I feel like I've talked about it once or twice this year, just how similar this year is to last year. Last year, rough start, big, long, unbeaten streak, and then kind of back and forth the rest of the way. This year, you got a season-opening win, 5 straight losses, nice unbeaten streak, kind of back and forth results to close out the regular season. And then you close out the regular season at New Mexico both years with a home playoff spot hanging in the balance. It's interesting parallels. Obviously there are key differences between the 2 seasons. Obviously this year there was no entire month of July without a win. There was not a 6-0 loss or a 4-0 loss, so there wasn't any of that. Which again brings us back to how well constructed the roster is and how mentally tough this group of guys is. But you're at Phoenix next Saturday, and then the following Saturday at October 26th, which means that first weekend of November, I believe it'll be the 2nd or the 3rd, that Saturday, Sunday is when the playoffs will be. Will they be at home? Will they be on the road? Don't know yet. If you can get 6 points from your next 2 games on the road, I would think that would probably be enough to get you a home playoff game, because those are 2 other Western Conference playoff teams. And that's something that I think was kind of interesting, that 901FC's final 5 games of the regular season were all against the teams that are currently above the playoff line. Louisville, Oakland, Sacramento, Phoenix, New Mexico. How about that's a hell of a way to close the season? 3 of those 5 on the road, and not just above the playoff line, but 2 of those teams are the number 1 teams in each of the conferences. So that's a tough way to close out the season. And to, you got 2 points out of it so far. I would hope for a minimum of 4. Anything above that, I think, puts you in pretty good shape to get a home playoff game. But what do the rest of the standings look like? Well, like I mentioned earlier, the Birmingham Legion, as is their habit, did Memphis 901FC no favors. They played Las Vegas tonight and got blown out 3-0. So who would have thought the Las Vegas Lights, the number 2 team in the Western Conference, they have never not been ass. And here they are. They got a former baseball player as their owner now, and everything has come up roses for them. Crazy. We have 5 teams in the Western Conference with playoff berths locked up: New Mexico, Vegas, Sacramento, Colorado Springs, Memphis. Everybody else is still wide open, the exception being El Paso. They're out. They stink. So right now, Vegas is in second. New Mexico is in first with 58. Vegas is in second with 50. Sacramento 49, Colorado Springs 46, Memphis 901FC 45, and then 6, 7, and 8 you've got Phoenix at 42, Oakland at 41, Orange County at 39, and then San Antonio, Tulsa, Monterey are 9, 10, and 11, 38, 35, and 34. So you're 3 points ahead of the 6th place team, but you're only 1 point behind the 4th place team. And depending on how the rest of the stuff goes, you might be able to get as high as 3rd, which would give you a 3. It's too early to start trying to predict playoff matchups. I think what they should do, and I think what Coach Glass is going to have them do, is they're just going to be focused one game at a time and control what you can control. As Coach Glass likes to say, they're focused on themselves. So if you could get to, say, 51 points, I think that puts you in very good shape for getting to host a home playoff game for the 3rd straight year. And with the momentum, with the attendance momentum, I should say, last 2 crowds were impressive, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. I think a home playoff game, you'd be looking at a pretty good crowd for another home playoff game. So we can't finish talking about Saturday night's game without discussing the refereeing from the game. Now, look, you guys know me. Been a referee. It'll be 18 years in 2 weeks. I'll have been a referee for 18 years. So that's a very long time. I am always going to be a team referee until I get put into a spot where I just can't. The most vocal I've been about poor refereeing for a 901FC game, I think, was the Indy 11 game and the second game of the year this year. That was a disaster class. You can go back and check that show out. A lot of things could have been done a lot better in that game. So right off the bat, I had a referee buddy text me. He said, "What's going on at the 901FC game?" "What do you mean?" "They're playing." Pete Pranica's on Twitter saying that the referee's turning in a shocking performance and he's a disgrace, which I thought was odd. I was like, he's handed out some cards, but they've all been fine. Well, and sure enough, Pete, we love you, but I couldn't, until the end of the game, I could not disagree with you more on the referee's performance in that first half, the first half of that game. Yes, there were cards. Cards happen. Cards are the referee's tool to control the game. when certain reckless fouls happen, there's various levels of fouls. There's careless, there's reckless, and there's serious. Careless is just a foul. Reckless is a caution. Serious is a send-off. That's why when you get a red card for a foul, it's for serious foul play. They're off the top of my head. Sacramento got 2 yellow cards. One of them was a hilarious delaying the restart where the dude didn't really want to back up, so he did the slow. I'm very clearly walking away, but I'm walking away slow enough that if the other player kicks it, it's just going to hit me, but I can say that I was walking away. That's exactly what happened, and the referee didn't fall for it and gave the card, which I thought was hilarious. So that's delaying the restart of play. There were a couple just reckless challenges from 901FC that got cards. I was fine with them. There was one, Bruno Lapa got a caution, and I'll bet my bottom dollar it was for dissent. And I understand why it looks bad and everybody gets mad because the play wasn't even going on, and Bruno Lapa's just in the referee's ear, and the referee had enough. It's like, dude, stop talking to me. Why are you arguing a throw in at midfield in the first half of a 0-0 game? Which would lead me to believe that's probably not the first time in the game that Bruno Lapa had been in the referee's ear. So I give cards for dissent all the time because I work 3 different jobs, and I don't really have time for some 17-year-old kid telling me what's what, complaining about stuff like throw-ins at midfield in a 0-0 game. Don't have time for that. Sorry. Caution. Go away. Leave me alone. My guess is that's probably what that was. Where things went off the rails, I had there were a couple of things. First, right off the bat, the very first, and listener, our good friend of the show, Rob Krause, brought this to my attention on Twitter. He said there were several times throughout the game where the referee was allowing players to take quickly restart play while the ball was still moving. That's a big no-no. You do that at a regional event, your ass is grass. You're done. You go home. Not go home, but you're done and you failed your assessment. You absolutely 100% cannot allow play to be restarted while the ball is still in motion. Stop the ball. That's also hilariously ironic, if true. I didn't see any of that, but again, I'm way up here. I got a lot of bodies in the way. It's really funny to me and also very frustrating, and I understand why it would be very frustrating if that's the case, because that referee was very particular about making sure the ball was, when players were restarting play, the referee was very particular about making sure the ball was placed where the offense occurred, and not just like, that's close enough. Like, no, there were probably half a dozen times where, boop, 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 boop. No, it's over there. It's over there. Roll it 4 inches to that way. Okay, let's play. So that's ironic, I guess, that you're so hardcore about ball being here, but not hardcore at all about making sure it's actually stopped. Very strange. Also, listener Rob again brought it to my attention that on more than one occasion, I think he said 3 or 4 times, AR goes up, we're going this way, and the referee goes, nah, we're going this way, which happens. It happens all the time, but you're taught. This is what I have been told, and what I tell new young referees is like, hey, if you're not sure, just put the flag in this one hand or give me some sort of soft signal, like, I think we're going this way. Okay. You have the decision made before the ball goes out so that you both go up at the same time in the same direction. Because if you don't, I'm pointing this way and you're pointing that way, and it looks like we don't know what the hell we're doing. And that happened in the first minute of the game last night. AR comes up this way, referee comes up that way, Coach Glass not happy. It was right in front of him. I can't. That's one of the ones where, like, as referee, everyone's always pushing, well, you're right there. How could you not see that? Exactly. I am right there. I saw it. Leave me alone. It was right in front of Coach Glass. And once you as a referee crew, a minute into the game, are pointing opposite directions for a throw-in, like Scarecrow and the Wizard of Oz, your credibility is done. You're gone. You're done. A minute into the game. And it's very hard to get back. And judging by everybody's reactions, they didn't get it back. So that was a problem. That was the only one I saw, but I don't know that I would necessarily doubt that was an issue other times with pointing opposite directions. Yes, the center referee has the final say. The old saying is the purpose of the assistant referee is to assist, not insist. I don't think it was a case of insisting and not assisting. They were like, yeah, throw in this way. And the referee goes, nah, we're going that way. Here's what I saw. And especially galling at that level because you have comms. You can talk to each other without everybody hearing it. You can be like, I've got 7 blue. It's off of 7 blue. Okay, or pink shoe. Something like that. To have mixed cross signals multiple times in a game is a problem. And then obviously, so one of the things I've replied to Pete on Twitter was I was like, there haven't been any missed CMIs and all the cards are justified. CMIs used to be called KMIs, used to be called key match incidents. Now they're critical match incidents. Basically, big decisions. And they referee blew the biggest decision of the game at the end of the game. There's no two ways to put it. Dylan Borsak in on goal, probably about 4 yards outside of the 18-yard box, and the guy's got his jersey like this. It's the most obvious, easiest foul call ever. And the thing is, it has to be a foul, and because it's a foul, and there wasn't any other defenders, and he was in on goal, and he's got the ball at his foot, the 4 Ds of Dogso are all there, so it has to be a foul, and it has to be a red card for Dogso. And it's one of those things you could probably live with it if the foul gets called and it's only a yellow. It needs to be a red, but as 901FC, you still get the free kick. You don't just lose the scoring opportunity. And that's what happened. The foul was not called. No caution was shown. No send-off. No red card was shown. And who I really feel bad for out of this is I can never remember his name. I think it's Leandro Spinola. Now, you're in a tough spot there as a referee. You've just missed this major call. And now you have to go over to the technical area and you have to send some. You had 3 coaches all out of the technical area charging at the assistant referee. Somebody's got to leave. And it's one you had to. The referee waited for play to stop, and then obviously the 4th and the AR in his ear, like, "Hey, somebody's got to go. This is a problem." And Caleb and Stephen Glass both just turn around and point. And this is not the first time this year this has happened. So Leandro Spinola is his official title is head of sports science, and it's kind of funny because they just keep making him be the fall guy. It's frustrating because it shouldn't get to a point where such an obvious foul is not called and a red card not shown, but he's the fall guy now. It's I feel for him, but it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. Referee, you can tell referee's got his hand in his back pocket as he's walking over to the bench. I'm like, all right, somebody's leaving. Who's it going to be? And Leon, he just hops right up and starts walking to the edge of the technical area. And he's like, yep, here you go. He leaves. And that wasn't the end of it, though. After the game, I haven't gotten it confirmed, but I don't know who else it would be. Caleb Patterson-Sewell went and gave his 2 cents and probably his 5, 10, and maybe 25 cents to the referee, and 1 yellow, 2 yellow, red. Goodbye. And send-offs after the final whistle are not usually looked upon very favorably, certainly not at the youth level, and I can't imagine at the professional level either. I don't know for a fact that it was Caleb. That's what I tweeted out because I don't know who else it would have been. There were a lot of bodies there. Also, if you're the referee crew, you just go. Nothing good is going to come from you standing there shaking everybody's hand. Just get out. That's what they tell you all the time. Just go. And if you're the AutoZone Park security staff, get them out of there. Nothing good is going to come. Oh, hey, good game. No, you just missed a red card in stoppage time. They're not happy with you. Get out. Go for your own good and for your own safety. Leave. Now, you're in the 93rd minute. You're in the 3rd minute of 6 minutes of stoppage time. Is the red card going to change the game all that much? Probably not. You still at least get the free kick. You still at least have the scoring opportunity. And especially after you had 2 goals pulled back the week prior and probably a missed penalty the week prior. That's a tough spot. Don't want to miss obvious. I mean, that was obvious. There's no two ways. Like that's as the referee, you need to be running through the checklist in your head as Dylan Borsak is in on goal, right? Distance from the ball, distance from the goal, the direction, and the number of defenders in the area. If you're running through that checklist in your mind as play is happening and you're where you need to be, which I'm not 100% sure the referee was, if you're where you need to be and you've gone through the checklist before the foul occurs, you know what decision to make when the foul does occur. That didn't happen. And Leandro's going to be suspended for the next game. That's at least the second time this year, so I don't know if anything extra is on top of that. Caleb, I believe, is probably going to be suspended for the next game. If we get everybody back for the playoffs, I think we'll be in good shape. But tough. That's tough. That's not, like I said, most of the cautions, no problem with. All justified, in my opinion. All perfectly defensible, all the right decisions. I have no problem with any of the cautions. Allowing restarts to happen while the ball's still moving, that's a problem. Constantly pointing the opposite direction for throwing that your ARs are doing, problem. I remember back in the Indy 11 game, getting on to the referee of that game because the AR did what he was supposed to do and was like, I think we're going this way. I'm not sure. And then the referee went this way anyway. And then obviously missed red card at the end of the game. That's tough. That's not as, and I can understand 901FC's frustration because you just had what you felt like a lot of decisions not go your way a week prior. And this is where, you're trying to get a home playoff game and the standings are very tight. And that red card probably wouldn't, but could have made all the difference between 1 and 3 points. And if you get 3 points, you're sitting in third place right now instead of fifth. You're in the home playoff spots or you're not. So that's very frustrating. That's really all I have to say. If anybody disagrees with that, you're more than welcome to tell me. I don't know that you're really going to change my mind on it, but the cards were all fine, and you missed the biggest call of the game. You blew it. And that's all I have to say about that. On a more positive note, the attendance last night, 4,688 people. As you can see, that is the largest crowd for a 901FC game this year. And it is the largest crowd for a 901FC home game since the 2022 home playoff loss to the Tampa Bay Rowdies. That game drew over 6,000 people, as did the previous playoff game against Detroit City. So what do we think? What do we think led to this? What do we think? Well, first and foremost, 901FC has been busting their ass trying to get people to the games. I had enough that a lot of people have texted me or messaged me and said, hey, we saw 901FC out here. Or, hey, did you see that 901FC was doing this? Did you see that they were out here? They showed up. I was just a tad miffed because they didn't tell me they were going to be at Snowden in South Haven, where I referee rec league all the time. And I show up to go start my 6 o'clock game. I walk out of the referee room, and there's the 901FC tent right there. Oh, my God. This is awesome. Why didn't you guys tell me? I could have gotten so many more people over here. So I did at the end of games. And here's what I'll give them credit for. A, they had the tent in probably as good of a spot as you could. That was one thing I had to get onto them for last year when they went to Mike Rose and put the tent where nobody goes. They've been really good at I've also mentioned this. They've been really good at Mike Rose this year at having the tent very prominently displayed right by the fountain in front of the stadium. I mean, there's maybe that's the best place, in my opinion. Anybody that comes into the complex is going to see it. So they've been much more visible at the places they've gone to, and they've been much more visible at letting people know that they're going to these places. So they deserve some plaudits there. Monday, a week or two ago at Snowden, whenever it was, they were one thing that I probably would not have thought of. I'm not the most creative person. I probably would not have thought of this, they would, as soon as a game would go over, whoever it was, whatever team rep, whatever player would go over to the field where the game just finished and start taking pictures with the players and handing them stuff and pointing them over to the tent, which is genius. I never would have thought of that, which is crazy. I kind of just thought that you would show up and they would flock to you. And I guess that hasn't necessarily been the case. So good on them for going and saying, hey, come. And they're doing a much better job of stuff at the tent too. I've noticed in years past, it's just been like, yeah, we're here. Here's a sticker. Okay, cool. I got a sticker. I don't know what it means, and I don't know who you are, and I don't know where you play, and I don't know when you play, but I got a sticker. Cool. They've been much, 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 much better this year with merchandise for sale. They got tickets for sale. They've got codes that you can scan to win a VIP 4-top table buffet experience. They've got, I believe they probably still have the stickers, but going out to the youth soccer scene, they've been much better about that this year, and kudos to them for that, because that is something that I and so many other people have been just begging them. You've got a big soccer community, go to them, and they've done that. And they were very, very vocal on social media about last home game, it's Heritage Night, get down here. And it was rewarded. It's amazing how many people you can get to come to your games when you tell people they should come to your games. 4688, that's the largest crowd. And I think if you do the math, that's 17 home games, 18 home games this year, counting the Open Cup game. You had 18 home games last year. So 18 and 18 is what, 36? So that's of really pushing, really making yourself visible. So that being said, is there still some more stuff they could do to try to get more people? Absolutely. But it's the end of the year. I'll cut them some slack on that and see what happens when they start next year. I am feeling pretty optimistic about what it might look like next year with some of the hires they've made. The fact that they're already trying to get 2025 season tickets sold in September and October, I think is very smart and very impressive from them. And I know I've gone all over the map. I have bounced all over the place. I've been up and down about the attendance this year. I know. I think over the course of the season, it's still going to have dropped from last year to this year. And I know back in August, when I was in Nashville for the NABT conference and I did the podcast from my hotel room, I was despondent about the attendance. That was coming off the back of, because I thought the summer of soccer was going to make a huge difference, and it doesn't look like that it did. But I am feeling positive and optimistic about the moves they're making, the marketing and that sort of thing. They've done a good job of it this year, and it could be better, yes. And I think it will be better next year. And I think it all came down to you needed to hire full-time soccer people. And I think they're doing that. And rest assured, if they just go back to vanishing into the ether and just hoping and praying that people that don't know they exist automatically show up, if they go back to that, I'll be the first to drop a bomb on them for it. I don't think that's going to be the case, though. I think we're in a much better spot. As counterintuitive as it sounds, considering that whatever the average is going to be for this year is probably going to be down from last year, which is disturbing because last year was the worst attendance in team history, which would then mean that this year was the worst attendance in team history. I think we'll see real tangible signs of progress next year. That's what I think. And, I have a part to play in that as well, as do you. And there's more stuff. Like, it's been a minute since I did a show, probably since September against North Carolina is the last time I did a show. I obviously was unable to do the Oakland, but I missed 3 home games this year. I only missed 2 last year. Probably do a few more shows when the team is on the road. Kind of bridge the gap, so to speak. But other media outlets have done well. Channel 3 has been at every midweek availability. Channel 24 has been, I won't say at every one, but they've been there more times than not. So there has been more coverage from the local media of this team, and I think that has helped as well. Again, if you recall the article I wrote, it's still my pinned tweet at LDoc93 on Twitter. It's still my pinned tweet about attendance being down last year. One thing that a lot of people came back to, and this is not something that 9OC necessarily has any control over. They could probably be a little bit more, hey, come cover us. But if I talked to one person at one local media outlet who is very much into soccer, and I was told by this person that their bosses at this outlet said, no, you do not talk about 901FC. You do not go down to their games. You say you don't, nothing. Not even in your own free time, like nothing. Nothing with our outlet attached to it has anything to do with 901FC. You don't like there's a Latin phrase that I'm looking for, and I wanted to say non corpus mentis, but that's not right. Persona non grata. That's it. Like, damn. Like that's crazy. But there's been other outlets that have picked up the slack, and kudos to them for that. And kudos to 901FC for making the strides that they've made this year, which again sounds crazy because I'm going to put an attendance piece together this year. It's probably not going to be as in-depth as last year. It's going to be more about how 901FC stacks up against the rest of the league. But there's a lot of credit to a lot of people, a lot of folks at 901FC, a lot of folks in the local media scene done a much better job this year than they have in years past. So good on y'all for doing that. Please stick with it. 901FC keep going to these youth sporting events, keep going to schools and going to, like, they have the Frontline Heroes Night, the First Responders Night they did on September the 11th. They went to like the Shelby County Health Department, the fire department, the police department, the sheriff's office, one of the hospitals, like check. And all of those organizations were posting on their socials. That's another big part of this. If you're going to make people in the city aware of the team that aren't aware of the team, it can't just come from the team because they're not aware of the team. It's like if a tree falls in the woods and no one is around to hear it, doesn't make a noise. So good on 901FC for getting to those people, and good on those people for getting the word out about 901FC. I think that's probably going to do it. I went a little bit longer than I wanted to, but that's okay. Hopefully we have a home playoff game to discuss here in about 3 weeks. Hopefully others in the local media scene, regardless of whether they get a home playoff game or not, are going to be aware, because like I said, outside of Tiger football going to 10 straight bowl games, I don't know that anybody in the Memphis sports scene has made that many consecutive. Memphis women's soccer obviously has been to, I think, 7 straight NCAA tournaments in 8 out of 9, or it's 6 in a row and 7 out of 8. And obviously they've gone to back-to-back Sweet 16s. They're probably the most successful program on campus at the University of Memphis right now. And once 901FC is over, I think we'll get into a little bit more Memphis women's soccer stuff here on the podcast. You can always check out the written stuff over at the Bluff City Media website. But I think I've only ever done one video podcast here for the U of M women's team, and that was after they got screwed egregiously last year as a 6 seed with like a 19-1 record. Absurd. Anyway, 901FC, the crowds are going up. The team is back in the playoffs for the 4th straight year, and they still have a chance to host a home playoff game for the 3rd straight year. So, prayers up. Thanks everybody for tuning in. It's been fun. It's been real. Had to say some negative things about the referees, which I don't like doing, but it had to be said. So there we are. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'm Lawrence Dockery. Find me on Twitter at LDoc93. Find the 901 Soccer Podcast on Twitter at 901 Soccer Pod. Find Bluff City Media on Twitter at Bluff City_media. Over on Facebook, 901 Soccer, Bluff City Media. Of course, if you're watching this, you're watching it on YouTube. So like, comment, and subscribe to Bluff City Media on YouTube. Thanks everybody again for tuning in. And hopefully we will talk to you after a Memphis 901FC home playoff game.